First of all, thank you all so much for coming out today to talk about Austin ISD and really talk about with us and taking this journey about reinventing the urban school experience, which is a vision of our school system. My name is Paul Cruz. I'm the Superintendent of Schools of the Austin Independent School District, and I welcome you here today as we think about the future, and that's what today is. It's taking these steps that we feel are necessary to plan for the future. With that, I would like to recognize our board members who are here with us today, because this is something that the board has placed a priority as far as an action, an activity, and an outcome that we're always looking forward, looking to the future, and making sure that we have a strong level of engagement as we're planning and working towards that future. I'd like to first introduce Ann Tyke, board member, right up here up front. Ms. Tyke, thank you for being here today. We can clap. And I'd also like to thank Julie Cowan, Board Secretary, back in the back over here. Thank you, Julie, for being here. I'd also like to thank some of our FabPack members. This is probably the best, one of the best, I guess it's sort of acrostic acronym type that we've ever come up with. I just love the name FabPack, right? Because it sounds really cool. It really is cool work. But they're doing a lot of work getting to understand this entire school system where we educate 84,000 students at 130 campuses with over 12,000 employees, and understanding the different designs, whether they be single gender, STEM academies, traditional schools from elementary, middle schools to high schools, to schools of choice, to alternative schools, just looking at all different facilities. They are doing an incredible amount of work, and my hat is out to them because they are truly amazing, and they really just signed up for this, or maybe they were voluntold, I don't know. But part of it, they said, yep, I'm gonna do it. So I'd like to recognize some of those who are here today. First of all, one of the tri-chairs of the FabPack is Roxanne Evans, who's here with us today. I'd also like to recognize attendees, FabPack members Jody Leach and Christian Ashby, excuse me. Appreciate that, sorry for that. So I want to thank y'all for being here today. I also want to thank Mr. Hopkins, I saw him earlier today, principal of Lanier High School, for letting us use this school today. Thank you, Mr. Hopkins, thank you so much. So as we're gonna go through this opportunity here, really just trying to set the vision for the district. And one way to do this, of course, is to look at to understand what we want it to look like in the future. We know what it is today. We know what life is like today and what it's like to live in our facilities today. But this is about the future. This is about the out years. And it's trying to imagine and reinvent and have an understanding what we want that experience to be. Part of this is understanding that we probably don't have it today, and that's okay. But it's about where do we want to be. It really has to be about what are the learning experiences for all of our youngsters. What are those learning experiences? What are those outcomes? What facilities are most conducive to those outcomes and to that learning? And making sure that we're planning for that. Making sure we're planning for that every single day. Our conversation today will start off with an overview of the project, just so that we know where we're headed. Then we're going to have a gallery walk where you're going to have an opportunity to respond to some questions, dialogue with different experts who have come in to support us, and our FabPack members as well, along also with staff members who are here just to engage in that type of dialogue and get your ideas and thoughts. It's very preliminary. It's initial steps in this process. In the end, we do see a final report that will come to the administration and then to the board. And I do see this as a long-term project. I do see this as going 15 to 20 years out, making sure we're actually planning for the future. So this is not a one-time, just a one-year deal or 2 years. This is really about the out years, 15 to 20 years down the road. Again, it may be something that it doesn't exist today, but it really should. And that's what we need to know. It's not about tweaking. It's not about tweaking the urban school experience. It's not about gently modifying the urban school experience. It is truly about reinventing the urban school experience for all of our youngsters. We sort of have to go into it with that mindset so we can have the big, bold changes that we all feel that our kids need every single day. I speak from that point, certainly as an educator, as a teacher, as a superintendent, but also as a parent. So also come to it from that direction as well. I'd also like to recognize we have many principals in the room today. I'd like for all of our principals to please stand, wave so we can see you. I see Beth over here. I see Brian back in the back. I want to thank them for doing the great work. I'd also like to recognize our facilities folks and also our CFO, Nicole Conley, and the facilities team for being here with us every single day, all the different planning that's going on. So with that, we'll also have an opportunity for question and answers. So we'll take comments, review questions, take a lot of the information back. This is one of the sessions of many. We started this past Saturday, had a couple of sessions. We did another one last night, one today, and that will also continue as we go out through the entire area of the Austin Independent School District. So to continue our presentation, I'd like to introduce Beth Penfield, who will take us through the rest of the information and then begin on our gallery walk. Beth.
Thank you. You're a tough act to follow. I think you stole most of my thunder off all these slides. So this is going to be quick. As you said, we're going to do a brief introduction, and this is largely to be a preview so you know what gallery walks and what some of the content we're talking about at the gallery walks. So we're talking about introduction and welcome. Hello. Again, my name is Beth Penfield. I'm an educational facility planner, and I've got lots of team members here with me tonight. We've been engaged by the district to help them out with this big process. So what are we talking about? And again, Dr. Cruz did a great job of introducing this. I'm going to use some of the vernacular and this technical language that you'll see throughout, so that way we start building that common language together, and back at the process stage you can tell us if we need to change any of this and make it a little bit more fun. But it's the Facility Master Plan, the FMP. It's a living document. It is on a 2-year renewal cycle, and so we are at that mark right now, and it's teamed with this idea of reinvention. I like that comment about minimal modifications. No, we are reinventing in this, and it's a comprehensive document that's going to look, yes, it'll look in the near future for the next bond, but it's going to look even further than that. So it's a long, comprehensive, cohesive plan that really looks to see how we roll out that reinvention. Okay, who is involved? Clearly you all. It's very important that we get feedback from the stakeholders, the administrators, the students, the parents, everybody. This is your plan. We're reinventing together. And part of that is working straight with the leadership and the facilities team. It's our group as well, and the Fab Pack. I think he spelled out exactly what it is, but it's the Facility and Bond Advisory Committee. So it's the Fab Pack, and then it's our group. So there's 2 consulting groups, and we just want to make sure you're familiar with our names, but we're all one big cohesive team. I'm from Brailsford and Dunleavy. We're an educational facility planning firm. We're based out of Washington, D.C. And with me today, we have our partners with Link Strategic Partners, and they are our community engagement firm. So Michael's about to get up here, and he's going to talk about our engagement strategy approaches, one of the big topics tonight we want to hear from you on. We have DLR Group in the back. They're a national architect firm, and they're going to help us really dig into the bones of the buildings and understand what needs to get done. And we also are teamed with BLGY, a local architecture partner, and Matt Cropper GIS, who is our demographer and GIS specialist, so we can really get into the data and see what's going on. The other team that's engaged is the assessment team, AE, Comm, and Perkins and Will. They are literally the boots on the ground. They are walking all those schools this summer to collect the condition assessment data. Quickly, an overview of our process. It's a 14-month process broken into 3 phases of work. We're in the middle of phase 1, which is the orientation and framework stage, where our team gets to really know you, and you get to know us. We're analyzing the existing data and setting up the whole framework for the project. Then starting in June, the assessments will occur, and that's where the teams are physically walking all the buildings, and they're collecting 2 types of assessment data. First is the physical condition assessment. How old are the roofs and the windows and the flooring? And looking at that life cycle analysis, it results in what's called an FCI, a Facility Condition Index. And it's a data point that lets us know what's going on in each building and compare them and start telling us what the costs are to fix those bones of the building. Then there's a second assessment that we call the Educational Suitability Assessment that starts to look at that school as how it's suitable to the educational environment. Really, how is that building acting as a school? And it looks at some of the environmental conditions like lighting and acoustics. And so we'll have 2 sets of really great data that tell us what's going on at each of the buildings, and that helps start to inform what type of projects need to happen, for one, to fix the bones of the building, but really also with that educational suitability, what needs to get done to help really reinvent it. Then after the summer, once we've collected all of that information, it's going to be coming in waves as the crew gets through the city. We'll be going through the synthesis phase, where we start really compiling it all and looking at it in a big picture. We're not looking for one-offs and kind of solutions in a bubble, but how do we look at a comprehensive plan that synthesizes it all and comes up with a comprehensive, really optimal solution long-term. And that's where we really start re-engaging with you. We're introducing it today. You're gonna go have fun on your summer breaks. Then we come back and we really get to work. I'm gonna hand it over to Michael to talk about the engagement plan.
My name is Michael. This whole engagement process is predicated on the belief that you know best, and this process isn't going to work if a whole bunch of consultants talk at you all night. So my goal is to stop this section of the program as quickly as we can and get into the actual engagement, but I want to talk to you about what that's going to look like. Throughout this entire process, and we're going to be working together for about the next 14 months, so we're going to have lots of opportunity to work together. We're going to utilize with you a variety of online and in-person engagement techniques. Meetings like today are wildly important so that we can have those face-to-face interactions. It's not always convenient to come out to meetings. We want to make sure we're utilizing technology like Periscope, Channel 22, and others to make sure that you can also stay fully engaged from home, so it's as easy as possible to engage in this process throughout. Our commitment from top to bottom, staff as well as consultants, is to utilize what we call a feedback loop throughout this entire process. That means we're coming out like we are today and communicating. We're going to get lots of feedback to analyze. We're going to make some recommendations based on that, but we need to come back and explain to you how those recommendations have been informed by the feedback. And that's often the step that's left out of really effective engagement. We ask you a whole bunch of questions, and then a report comes out, and no one can ever tell how the two are connected. Our goal this time is to make sure this isn't all data-driven or all community engagement-driven. It has to be a synthesis of the two. What is the data telling us, and how do you as community members tell us if that's right or not? So that's our commitment to you as we're going through this process. This is way too small for you to read, but there are a number of steps to this process. We started with a community survey. As of today, over 5,400 people have taken that survey, which is remarkable. So thank you for that. The survey link is open through the end of this week. So if you haven't taken it, or if groups haven't, please send that out. That survey is telling us collectively how you want to be engaged, where you want to be engaged, when you want to be engaged, and we're using that to lay out the rest of the process. We're wrapping up round 1 of engagement tonight, and then the assessment team is going to spend the summer walking the buildings, looking at the buildings, doing facilities conditions assessment. We're going to bring all of that data back to the community heading into the fall and say, great, now we have data. How do we get community feedback on what that data means? And so we'll be working together through the fall, into the winter, where we'll be looking at some of the bond ramifications of the planning, and then into the spring when a final report will come out. So that's the process that we're going to be walking through together. Tonight, we're using a format called a gallery walk. And again, instead of us talking at you, we want to make sure we're getting some really good feedback. There are 3 different stations set up. On my left and your right is the process station. That's where you can go and ask questions. What is an FMP? We talk about it like it's something we all understand. It's a technical document. So let's break down what that actually looks like, what the process is, ask questions and get feedback. In the back of the room is the engagement station. We've got some of the preliminary survey data up there. We've got some of the initial thoughts about how, when, and where we're engaging, and we want you to tell us what's right and what needs to be adjusted so it can be right for the rest of this process. And then on the far right-hand side of the room is the visioning session. This is where you don't need to know anything about facilities planning. You just need to go back there and say, what do I think we need or my kids need to have a really effective educational experience? What does it actually mean to reinvent something? Go back there and talk about that with some of the national experts in this space, and that'll start underlying how we do the remainder of our planning. So we've got engagement, we've got visioning, and that is what tonight is going to look like. I'm going to turn this back over to Dr. Cruz, but before I do, there are a number of ways to stay involved. We've got a website with all our information. Tonight we'll be capturing feedback on a number of Post-it notes. After every meeting, those are being logged and put back up online. So you should be able to leave a meeting like this, go online in a few days, and see your comment reflected there, so that you don't have to take my word that we heard you. It should be reflected online so you know you were actually listened to through this process. The survey is still open, so please take that that or share the link if you haven't had a chance to yet. And then we will continue to come back to you over the summer and then with another round of meetings in September. Does that all make sense? Great. I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Cruz.
So we know we can do this work, but we can't do it alone. And again, so I just want to thank you again for coming out today and sharing your thoughts, your ideas, multiple ways to provide feedback on an ongoing basis. Certainly appreciate that and appreciate your work. I'd also like to recognize our board president who's here, Kendall Pace. Thank you, President Pace, for also being with us here today. So with that, we will begin the gallery walk.
So we've got 3 different stations set up. This is the process station, and the back is the engagement station, and on the far side of the room is the visioning station. The process station is looking at what is a facilities master plan? What is the timeline of the work we're going to do together, and how can we make sure that that timeline is as clear as possible going forward? So the lead planner for this part of the process is a firm called Brailsford and Dunleavy, and we have them with us here today, and they're going to be able to answer some questions as we go forward. The type of feedback that we want from community members, and you can give us feedback online or in meetings or through Twitter or through Periscope, we want people to give us feedback about what makes sense about this plan and what doesn't. Facilities planning inherently can be very technical and it can be very confusing, and it doesn't need to be. At the end of the day, tell us what you'd like to see in your schools, and then it's our job to figure out what that looks like in terms of a master facilities plan. So this station is our engagement station. This is where we're taking feedback we've heard from the community to put together some series of engagement rounds over the course of this 14-month process. Some of the boards, including the ones we have over here, are laying out our initial ideas. We've got a student engagement activity planned for early May, where we're going to get feedback from students on what they want out of their school. We've also got regional community meetings. This first round had 5 different meetings all across Austin. We've got 4 more rounds of large-scale community meetings going out through the rest of this process. We then have what we're calling rolling roadshow meetings. And roadshow meetings are all about how do you take everything we're doing here, box it up, and take it out to community groups. True effective engagement shouldn't require people to come to us. We as a school system and a consultant team should be willing to go out and meet with people where they are, and that's a cornerstone of this process. When do we meet with PTAs? How do we meet with civic groups? How are we out at community festivals getting feedback? How and when it's easiest for the residents of this community? And then finally, we're using a variety of digital engagement opportunities as well. We did an online survey of about 5,300 people. Online engagement came out very high as something that this community wanted. How do we make sure that we're utilizing Twitter and Facebook and other technologies for those folks who want to use those technologies to make sure we're getting input into this process that doesn't require someone to come to a community meeting? We want people to come out. We'd love to engage face-to-face. Sometimes people have challenges coming out to a meeting. It doesn't fit into their day. They have childcare needs, etc. So we want to make sure that the engagement is as easy as possible and as robust as possible going forward. And that's what this station is about. Give us your feedback, take the survey. We've got a map where we're asking people to put a dot on where they live so we can make sure we're geographically dispersing our feedback and our engagement throughout this process. And we welcome all feedback on how to make this process stronger. Our third station is the visioning station. The visioning station is all about what does it mean to reinvent the urban school experience. You don't need to be a facilities planner, you don't need to be a technical expert to figure out what makes a good school. You know that as a parent, as a student, as a community member. Give us your thoughts on how people learn best, what conditions they learn best in, what's going on around the country that can impact what we're doing here in Austin. We've got lots of different boards set up for this, and we have national leaders in K-12 space, including Jim French, who is a partner with DLR Group. They're the largest K-12 provider in the country, and they'll walk us through what's in a visioning station. Jim, how do you explain the visioning station and what you want, what type of feedback you want for your community on this?
Well, we're asking the community to tell us, for example, what do they believe their ideal school is. One of the things we've been hearing a lot is community school, and then we ask them to define for us what that means to them. It may be walking distance, it may be size, it just may be the feel of the community, the culture of the community. We're also asking what opportunities they want for their students. So for example, if they want early learning, if they want opportunities after school, during school. And then we're also asking what are the opportunities, or how can a facility actually help the learning process for their students. So for example, a lot of things we're hearing today is active learners. I talked to Lucas last night, who gave me a lot of information about the thing he loves about school is when his teachers are actually performing projects and he gets to do hands-on learning. For him, that's how he really learns the best. Right. So our question is, or the question we should need to answer is, what's that mean for the learning space for the learner?
And Lucas was 7 years old, I think, and was very active in our meeting last night. You do this work around the country. Different communities want different things out of their school. How do we make sure that what we're doing here is localized to Austin?
Well, I think the best thing is like meetings we're having tonight, and for the community to come to these type of meetings or get on the website or get to the opportunity to fill out the surveys to give us input. We try to do the best we can to bring what we know nationally, what research is telling us, which helps in learning and school designs. But ultimately, we believe the schools of Austin should be for the community of Austin, and it should be developed by the community members that give us feedback and their educators.
And the last question, when you think of facilities planning, this can be very technical, and it can actually be really intimidating for people who aren't facilities experts. How do we take all of that away and ask those foundational questions that you don't need any technical background to know what makes a good school? What are those things that you'd like to hear from the community?
Well, in some cases, it's their own learning experiences. We always ask adults, when you look back, when you went to school, tell us what it was that really engaged you or what you remember. In a lot of cases, those are the things that we're after that make great schools. You don't have to have a degree, you don't have to know a lot about schools. It's really about what you want for opportunities for your kids. We believe that schools should be student-centered. So we engaged community members about what would that mean for you as an Austin community member.
Excellent, excellent. And you can see you're getting lots of engagement at your station here today. So how this is all working is we're asking community members for direct feedback. We're writing it on Post-it notes and putting it up on the board. All of the feedback from all 5 meetings will be cataloged, and it'll all be put up online. So all the community members that were here will be able to go online and see their comment to make sure it was recorded, it was heard, and it was put in the planning process. If you weren't able to make the first round of meetings, come out to future ones, but that's not your only opportunity. We're doing Twitter town halls, we're doing road shows, there's a website, there's lots of different ways to get your input into this process over the next 14 months.